Oklahoma City's probably going to win the NBA championship this season. And it got me thinking, because the Oklahoma City Thunder tanked shamelessly the same way the 76ers tanked shamelessly. But why did it work out for the Oklahoma City Thunder and not the Philadelphia 76ers? So I went to Twitter AI to get a complete timeline of events. I said, can you give me a detailed timeline of how the Oklahoma City Thunder rebuilt their team into a championship contender, starting with the Paul George trade and including draft selections? 2017, trade gave OKC. Okay, that's when they traded for Paul George. Let's go to when they re-signed Paul George. Let's go to when they trade. 2019, the pivot to a rebuild. Oklahoma City Thunder. Paul George traded to the Clippers. 4, SGA, a 20-year-old guard who Doc Rivers would not put on the floor. 2018, 11th overall pick, all-rookie second team. Gallinari, and 5 first-round picks. By the way, Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers, if they end up in the finals, that will be Paul George's 2 former teams in the finals with rosters built on trading Paul George. Anyway, SGA and 5 first-round picks. They made a Russell Westbrook trade to the Rockets for 2 first-round picks. Who traded for Westbrook? Daryl Morey. 2019 NBA draft. Darius Baisley. They traded with Memphis to select Baisley and no other first-round picks. Where did they get Jalen Williams? Off-season trades, Chris Paul trade. They traded Chris Paul for another 20, Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, Ty Jerome, 2022 first-round pick. They were just stacking draft picks. OKC traded Dennis Schroeder to the Lakers. Nari, more second-round picks. Pelicans 2023 first-round pick for Steven Adams. They unloaded everybody for first-round picks. Building the young core. They drafted Josh Giddey in 2021, who was eventually traded for Alex Caruso, who is a major reason that the Oklahoma City Thunder are where they are. The combination of Lou Dort and Alex Caruso is ridiculous. They finished 24-58 that season, so they get back in the draft, striking gold in the draft. The 2022 draft, they drafted 2nd overall Chet Holmgren, and with one of the picks that came from the Clippers in the Paul George trade, they selected Jalen Williams. So basically, the Oklahoma City Thunder traded Paul George and tanked for SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and Alex Caruso. That's unbelievable, man. They made out in that Paul George trade. You couldn't write it any better than that. 2023, Cason Wallace, he's played a big role in their success this year. Keontae Johnson, off-season moves. They focused on development. They kept the same core together. And 23 and 24, they were 57 and 25. They swept the Pelicans in the first round. They lost to Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks in the second round. 2024 NBA draft, fine-tuning for a championship. Dylan Jones, Nikola Topic, AJ Mitchell. They traded, they acquired Gordon Hayward. OKC traded Trey Mann, Davis Bertans, and others to Charlotte for Gordon Hayward. I don't remember Gordon Hayward I don't even hardly remember. Did he play for the Thunder, or was that like he was still hurt from when he broke his ankle in half in Boston? Hey, Jesse James, thank you for the super chat, commenting on Jalen Brunson's build. Thank you for the support, though. Anyway, the trade showed Presti's willingness to use assets for immediate help. Alex Caruso trade, 24-25. They won 68 games, and now they are a championship contender. Key draft picks from the Paul George trade. SGA in the trade, Trey Mann, Jalen Williams, Cason Wallace, Dylan Jones, and in 2022, from being terrible, they drafted Chet Holmgren. Should we look at the 76ers tank and try to determine how it compares? Here you go. In 2013, the 76ers traded Drew Holiday. They traded Drew Holiday to draft Nerlens Noel. Yeah, that doesn't really compare to an SGA trade. Drew Holiday was 23 years old. He was already an all-star. That's a terrible trade, bro. I don't give a shit what anybody thought about Sam Hinkie at the time. That's a horrendous trade. You had an all-star guard. Just keep building around him, bro. You should have traded Andre Iguodala right here. You should have said, let's tank for a couple more years, but let's keep Drew Holiday. No, you traded Drew Holiday to draft Nerlens Noel because you thought that because he had like 10 blocks a game at Kentucky that he was going to do that in the NBA. And then you realize, oh, he can block shots in the NBA, but in the NBA, you need to do a lot more than block shots. I don't get it. I don't understand even the start of the process. Michael Carter-Williams, ended up trading him. 2014 draft, Joel Embiid. Dario Saric. Dario didn't come over for another season. We thought Dario was going to be some kind of NBA star. He was a nice player for a couple of years, but he didn't end up being a star. We thought he was going to be a running mate to Joel Embiid. You know, that didn't happen. Free agent signings, Jason Richardson, Luke Bob. That's the player that discovered Joel Embiid in Cameroon, Africa, by the way. 18 and 64 that year. 2015 draft. Now, of course, Joel Embiid was hurt when they drafted him, but I say all the time that I don't really understand what they were doing, and people praise Sam Hinkie, but Sam Hinkie didn't have a plan. Because if you draft Joel Embiid and you say he's going to be healthy and then he breaks his foot again, okay, but you still had a plan. Your plan is still Joel Embiid gets healthy, he's a superstar center, and that ended up being true. So if you believe Joel Embiid has the potential to be a superstar center when he gets healthy, you don't draft Jahlil Okafor, bro. To be fair, I remember this draft. We were looking at a player that would have fit, who was D'Angelo Russell, who we would have ended up hating anyway. But they drafted Jahlil Okafor. And then they draft Ben Simmons. In the end, Jahlil Okafor and Nerlens Noel end up, I guess, being starting level centers, and then Joel Embiid gets healthy, and you have a three-way center logjam that makes no sense. They drafted Ben Simmons in 2016, the end of Sam Hinkie's tenure. We all know how this worked out. This was, drafting Ben Simmons here after drafting Joel Embiid, I guess we can say, is the same time frame of Oklahoma City drafting Chet Holmgren or drafting Jalen Williams, right? Except Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren actually turned into players who can play at a high level in the playoffs, even at very young ages that they're at. Ben Simmons, first overall pick, is the biggest fraud I've ever witnessed in my time watching NBA basketball. 2017. Now we think, okay, we got Ben Simmons. He's gonna get a jump shot. If this brother gets a jump shot, that's my Stephen A. Smith impression. 20 years later, if this brother gets a jump shot, oh, you better watch out. Oh, you better watch out. He's Magic Johnson. He's LeBron James if he gets a jump shot. Anyway, we thought Ben's going to get a jump shot. We got Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz, he's the next Kyrie Irving. All the signs were there. I still don't do this whole, the Sixers could have had Tatum and all that bullshit. Markelle Fultz was a unanimous #1 pick. 6'5", 7-foot wingspan, point guard, 41% from three, 50% on pull-up twos, a handle, a pull-up game, a catch-and-shoot game, a finishing at the rim game, up and under, left hand, right hand, two-hand slams, poster dunks, a passing ability, footwork. He had everything. He was the new age James Harden, even more physical, and had more tools in his bag, honestly, with the catch-and-shoot game and things like that. Everybody was talking about Markelle Fultz. Nobody was talking about Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum was the second highest scorer on his team behind Luke Kennard. He was a project, so we can't do that. This was the right pick. It's just that there's a black cloud over the 76ers franchise, and Markelle Fultz forgot how to shoot a basketball. Rumors are he wrecked a motorcycle and ruined his shoulder or something like that. I don't know. Either way, he got $30 million in guaranteed money for being the #1 draft pick, so there's that. 2018, to make matters worse, the 76ers draft a player who would fit perfectly on the roster, who was a 4-year college player, who was a college champion. He was probably the most NBA-ready player in the draft. They passed on Michael Porter Jr. because of the injuries. They draft Mikal Bridges. His mom works for the team. He's from Philly. He played for Villanova. I mean, this is the craziest trade. I just think this is probably the craziest trade ever. Bridges became a two-way star with they traded to Phoenix for Zaire Smith. That's gotta be the worst trade in NBA history. It has to be. So the 76ers somehow figure out a way during the rebuild to have two of the worst #1 overall picks in history. And then the next year they figure out a way to make the worst trade in NBA history. 2019, they say, hey, the Elton Brand becomes the GM. We still don't really know who was in charge. I'm convinced Elton Brand was just a yes man to the owners who thought they were playing 2K, and they were like, let's use all Sam Hinkie's assets to get a bunch of star players. And they trade for Tobias Harris, and they trade away Markelle Fultz, and they trade for, when did they trade for Jimmy Butler? The next year? Or no, that same year. I'm skipping. Tobias Harris trade, Markelle Fultz trade, Al Horford signing. What a shit roster. Was it the year before was Jimmy Butler? At the deadline? Yeah, 2018 Jimmy Butler trade. Acquired Jimmy Butler and Justin Patton from Minnesota for Covington, Sarge, Bayless. They get Jimmy Butler, they get Tobias Harris, and they say, hey, Jimmy Butler's not a great three-point shooter. Tobias Harris only shoots 2 threes a game. Joel Embiid needs space. Now, anybody with a basketball mind would understand that you need to add ball handlers, shooters, rebounders, deep roster guys. The 76ers somehow come up with the idea to sign Al Horford to a 4-year, $109 million contract? There's no way Brett Brown did that. There's no way Elton Brand did that. There's just no way. There's no way people who are supposed to be basketball minds thought that was a good idea. It had to be Josh Harris and Scott O'Neal and Michael Rubin and all these billionaires that just thought, like, we'll put it together ourselves after we fired Sam Hinkie. That's so bad. There's just no way that was somebody who played in the NBA. So as the NBA is getting faster and teams are shooting a lot more threes, the 76ers say, let's go all 1995. Brett Brown. I coached Tim Duncan and David Robinson in 1995. Absolutely ass backwards. And then they trade Ben for, James Harden past his prime when there was better options on the table. We got the Daryl Morey situation. The James Harden thing doesn't work out. Morey is a liar. 2024, even AI titles this the Paul George misstep. Why it didn't work out at age 35. Paul George's declining athleticism and injury history made his contract a risk. His $116 million remaining over 3 years is seen as untradeable and tying up cap space for a non-all-star level contributor. Even AI knows how terrible the Paul George contract is. Unbelievable. When you go through it step by step, year by year, it is impressive how much they fucked up every step of the way. And the Oklahoma City Thunder were like, well, you just trade for a young up-and-coming all-star point guard. Yeah, he turned into an MVP. The Clippers didn't know that was going to happen. We draft Jalen Williams at number 12 overall in the 2021 draft. Nobody knew he was going to be an all-star level player playing the way he's playing in the Western Conference Finals. And you draft Chet Holmgren, who's in his second year. Everything worked out for OKC, and literally every single thing the 76ers did was a train wreck. And now it's time to rebuild again because you just messed up every single step of the way, bro. There's no saving this. So if I had to predict, the 76ers it's gonna get worse. The Paul George experiment is gonna get worse. Daryl Morey is gonna get fired. Should have traded Paul George this offseason. It's gonna get worse. The fans are gonna hate him more. The fans are gonna boo more. There's gonna be a lot more pressure for change. The fans are gonna stop coming to the arena again. The tickets are gonna be $1 again. It's going to get a lot worse. And then the owners will have no choice but to clean house and try to start all over again because they have an arena coming in 2030.